let's talk about workplace conflict. For most of us, just hearing those two words makes us want to run and hide. But what if I told you that getting good at handling it is one of the most valuable skills you can have? In this explainer, we're going to crack open the conflict resolution toolbox and give you some really practical frameworks to turn those messy disagreements into something, well, productive. Let's be real. This quote probably hits pretty close to home for a lot of us, right? Our first instinct is usually to fight back, freeze up, or just avoid the whole thing and hope it goes away. But we all know that's not how it works. That tension, it doesn't just disappear. It festers, and it can seriously poison a team's vibe. So here's a different way to look at it. What if conflict isn't the problem? What if it's just a normal, even healthy part of people working together? I mean, it's literally impossible for everyone to agree on everything all the time. So the real key isn't trying to avoid conflict, it's about learning how to handle it constructively. And when you do that, it's an amazing opportunity to get clear on things, build some real trust, and actually make your team stronger. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll quickly touch on why conflict is just a fact of life at work. Then we'll get into the good stuff, a 4-step model for tough conversations, some must-have de-escalation skills, and a guide on when you might need a mediator. And we'll wrap it all up with a summary of tools you can start using right away. Okay, first things first, let's just get this straight. Conflict at work is not a sign that your team is broken or that people don't get along. Nope. It's actually a sign that people with different ideas and different goals are engaged and actually care about what they're doing. And this really gets to the heart of it. Of course, people are going to clash sometimes over how to do things or who's responsible for what. That's just going to happen. The goal isn't to pretend these disagreements don't exist, but to build the skills to manage them and turn them into something positive. Okay, time to grab our first tool from the toolbox. And trust me, this one is a total game changer for those conversations you're dreading. It's called the structured conversation model. And it's a super simple, repeatable way to say what you need to say without making things worse. Now, the real magic of this model is following these 4 steps in exactly this order. First, you just state the objective facts. What happened? Second, and this is so important, you explain the impact it had on you using I statements. This is psychologically brilliant because it's not about blame, it's about your experience. That totally sidesteps the brain's defensive reaction and actually invites empathy. Third, you say what you need. And finally, you pivot to problem solving and suggest some next steps together. Let's see how this works in the real world. That before statement, it's a classic accusation. It's just going to put someone on the defensive immediately. But look at the after one. It follows the model perfectly. Fact, impact, need, and a proposed next step. It completely transforms an attack into an invitation to solve a problem. It's a night and day difference, right? So even with the best model in the world, sometimes things just get heated. We've all been there. When emotions start running high, the logical part of our brain pretty much checks out. And that's exactly where our next set of tools, de-escalation techniques, come in. You can almost picture emotions like this ball, right? Once they get going, they just start bouncing out of control and picking up speed. And you know what? Often, the single most powerful thing you can do is also the simplest. Just pause. Calling a timeout isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually a really smart, strategic move, so you can have a better conversation later. Here are 3 phrases you can literally put in your back pocket to lower the heat. First, what I'm hearing is. That shows you're actually trying to understand, not just waiting for your turn to talk. Second, it sounds like this is very important to you. This one's huge. It validates their feelings without you having to agree with them. And of course, the big red button. Can we take a 5-minute break? It just gives everyone a chance to reset. But sometimes, even with the best intentions and the best tools, you're still stuck. So this next part is all about when to bring in some help and also how to be proactive to stop future conflicts from blowing up in the first place. So what exactly is mediation? Well, first off, it's voluntary and it's completely confidential. You've got a neutral person who's just there to help facilitate the conversation. Now, this is the key thing to remember. A mediator is not a judge. They don't take sides. They don't decide who's right or wrong. Their one and only job is to help both people find their own solution that they can both agree on. And hey, for all the managers out there, knowing how to step in is everything. This little table is your cheat sheet. If it's a simple misunderstanding, try that structured conversation model. If emotions are flaring, your first job is to bring the temperature down. If you see the same conflict happening over and over again, it's probably time to suggest mediation. And this is non-negotiable. If it involves anything like harassment or a policy violation, you go straight to HR. End of story. Honestly, the best way to resolve conflict is to prevent it from happening. Setting some clear ground rules for how your team handles disagreements can make a huge difference. Simple stuff like focusing on facts, not personal attacks. And after you solve something, write down what you agreed to. It keeps everyone on the same page. And finally, make sure to follow up. A quick check-in later on makes sure the solution is actually working. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So let's pull all of this together into a simple, powerful toolkit that you can literally start using tomorrow. So here it is, your cheat sheet. You've got that structured conversation model. Just remember that simple formula. You have your go-to de-escalation techniques: listen, acknowledge, pause. You've got 3 practical phrases ready to go, and you know that it's a sign of strength, not weakness, to know when it's time to bring in a mediator. This is it. This is the core of your new conflict resolution toolkit. At the end of the day, these frameworks aren't just about putting out fires. They're really about building a different kind of culture, one with more psychological safety, more respect, and more collaboration. It's about building a place where different perspectives are seen as a strength, not a threat. So my question for you is, which tool will you use first?